Welcome back to Gearhead Geeks, where today we're going to be refurbishing a set of carburetors off our street tractor KZ400. The KZ400's carbs have been sitting in a rather musty container for years and years and years. They're crusty, they've got minerals all over them, they're dirty, so we're going to clean them up, we're going to make them look nice, we're going to clean the jets correctly. I'll show you how to do that. We're going to set the float levels, and we'll set those correctly, and I'll show you how to do that. So let's get to it. Well, the first thing we always want to do before we start on any kind of project, especially carburetors, is to get them cleaned up the best we can. So what we're going to do here is we're going to run them over the sink and just get the things cleaned up so we can see what we have. And one of the reasons that you really do want to clean them up is so you can see any problems that might have arisen that are covered up by dirt, so you'll be prepared for them. So I'll run them over the sink and we'll get these things cleaned up. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're just going to give these things a good spraying with some Super Clean. And let's get as much of the grime off of these things as we can. This will give everything a fighting chance to do good. There's rust that we're going to try to chemically take off so we don't hurt any finishes. Doesn't mean we'll be successful at all that, but by doing it this way, you give everything a fighting chance. And we'll let those sit for a couple minutes. And while we'll let that soak in, but not too long, because Super Clean is very, very harsh. It's making me cough. It's very alkali. I guess alkali, and it is really strong. It works great on almost everything, but if you leave things on aluminum too long, it'll darken it, which isn't good. So all we want to do is we want to try and clean this. So let's take a brush, and this is just a regular plastic brush. You could use a toothbrush, that's fine. But we'll just kind of scrub off some of any extra crud that we can see. And already things are looking much better. Okay, now that we've got the basic cleaning done, which has improved things dramatically, what we're going to do is we're going to put some rust dissolver on the rusty parts, and that just needs to sit for a couple minutes. But any place I see rust, I'm just going to throw some of this stuff on it. And this stuff works pretty well. Okay, we can let that sit for a minute or two. And once that's done, we will then continue on with our cleaning operation. And that cleaning operation is going to entail using a little bit of something called aluminum brightener. And the aluminum brightener does a pretty good job of cleaning up and brightening the aluminum, but it does a really good job on zinc. So, okay, we're back. We've only given it a couple minutes, but we're going to rinse off this stuff. And see how it looks. This is really hot water too. And all the rust is basically gone off of this shaft. It was completely rusty. This is all the rust is gone off of that. It looks like it did a very good job of removing rust. And that only took about 2 or 3 minutes. just that amount of time also, one of the things that our slides were completely stuck, and now they're starting to come back all by themselves. One slide's already working its way, and gravity is starting to do its thing. The other one's just getting there, and that stickiness is basically gone. It's just, see, the slides have actually come down, and that was just from just a decent little cleaning. We're not having to take anything apart, we're not breaking anything, and a completely stuck slide, just by washing, can unstick it and save you a lot of time and effort. And you don't break anything. So now, what we're going to do next, get these kind of dry, and once they dry off, a little bit, not much, we're going to go on ahead and hit them with this aluminum cleaner and brightener. You just spray it on and you rinse it off, and it's designed for cast aluminum, and it works really, really well on this stuff. But boy, it's just amazing what it does to zinc. So what we're going to do is just give this a quick squirt. Now, the one thing you have to be real careful of when you use aluminum brightener is the length of time it's on there. It only needs to be on for a few seconds, actually. It is not, it will darken things, and you don't want that to happen. But you can just take it, put it on these pieces, we'll rub it in a little bit. It's a very good cleaner too. Throw some in there, throw some in both sides. Give this thing about 10-15 seconds. Okay, so as you can see, look what it did to look how nice and new looking these carbs are. And we just did a little bit of chemical cleaning, no scrubbing, but those looked like they just came out of the factory. Now, these up here are semi-polished, and they were really, really corroded. And all that we've done is we've removed all that corrosion and exposed what's underneath. We'll pull these off and give them a real nice polish. They'll be great looking. We'll kind of work the bowls more with steel wool. We don't want to polish them, and then we'll just get all the rest of these parts cleaned up, and we'll go from there. We'll examine the bowls, set the float levels, a few other things. We'll get them all cleaned up. Okay, now as you can see, our carbs are much, much cleaner. Not perfectly clean yet, but they're much, much cleaner. So we can do a bit of disassembly here. And I think what we'll do is we'll start with these caps and get them off of there. And all these screws have been boogered up. We are going to restore those so that we can use them again and still have them look really, really nice. This is not a restoration so much as it is a kind of a revival. And we'll put all the little parts in a little tray, on a tray here. We'll take a look and see how bad these slides are. Hopefully they aren't too bad. The screwdriver is a vessel impact screwdriver, so if I need to get a super tight screw loose, this is a JIS. If I need to get a super tight screw loose, you can put it in and hit it with a hammer and it will loosen the screw. These are really, really good screwdrivers. I'm a big snap-on fanatic, but this vessel JIS screwdriver is a really, really good deal. I've got a number 2 and a number 3, which is all they offer on the impact that I could find, but they really do a nice job. Now, you can see these guys are kind of stuck on, but they're a little dirty inside. Not too bad. A little water in there from whatever, but it's all looking pretty good. Thing seems to be in relatively decent shape. The gaskets are not terrible because we don't have a set, new ones, but all of this seems to be pretty good. So we'll scrub those out a little bit and save our gaskets. Just let's not be brutal on things. So we've got a bit more cleaning to do in here. It's a little dirty. These will get polished up. We'll go through that process of cleaning and polishing them. Now, what we'll do is we'll turn this around and we'll take a look at our floats and float bowls. Okay, now the next thing we need to do, since we're in this area, and I'm shredding my glove, is we need to get these lines off. Now, they are pretty stiff. So what we're going to do, we're just going to take a heat gun, and I'm going to heat the lines up, and that'll make them easier to get off. So we'll start with this one over here. And now you can see that the lines are already starting to loosen up. You can see it starting to fall, and it makes your life so much easier when you do it this way. Okay, let's take off the one and see what it's going to take here. I mean, it still could be very, oh, see, it comes right off. It's pliable, and it's not too bad. So we'll do that to all the lines. And it's nice and loose, and it's going to come right off. Just 1 minute. Okay. As you can see, the heat gun just made it easy, and it was a little warm. Okay, so now let's take a look and see what we're going to end up with these float bowls. Again, these screws are all goobered up, and this one's loose. I have to. And this is the idle adjust right here, and it's not frozen, but it's really, really stiff. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to try and wind this off of here. So we can just take the whole thing off. This is our idle adjust. It's really easy to put back in. We don't have to remember any settings on it, because all the settings we're going to do on all of this is what the book recommends. So now we've removed this. We'll get this all cleaned up. We'll clean up all this zinc, make it look nice. Okay. Let's take a look inside our bowls. Okay. There's a couple ways to take these off. Maybe the easiest way is just take the butt end of a soft screwdriver, just a regular plastic screwdriver, and just give them a couple taps. Be careful, just if there's gaskets or whatever in there. We're trying to preserve all of this. Now these are pretty nasty inside, and what we want to do is the O-ring is kind of stuck in here, so we're going to try and get it out, and there it is. And as you can see, it's not very pretty inside. These are main jet holders. They just slide in. They slide in and hold this tube in. So it's just, there's a rubber O-ring on it. The good part is these slides are solid. So I mean, not slide. The floats are solid. So that makes it kind of nice. And now what we want to do here is I'm going to try and carefully Now this, what's happened is this O-ring's been glued into place. I'm going to try and carefully remove it. And we will get all the glue off. I think somebody was trying to stop it from leaking at one time, and it doesn't look like they were very successful at it. And they broke, the O-ring is broken in one spot. So we're going to try, we'll try and get some more of those. If we can't, we still can make those work right. Because, again, this is also a very frugal operation. We're here to save money and not just say, oh yeah, we can do everything. And this one came out with the bowl, so we'll have to dig that one out of there. And again, same deal with this. This guy holds in these rubber plugs, and it holds down this. And these jet needles, the float needles and everything. The springs seem to be working, so that's a good sign. The pins holding in these are just lock solid. There's these rubber plugs, which we'll put right here. Get them out of the way, because we're going to be doing some cleaning on these carbs. So the next thing we need to do is get these out of the way. I'm going to go grab a very small punch, and we will gently knock those out. Okay, we have a small punch, and what we need to do is we're just going to go on ahead and gently tap on these and see if they move. It's a little hard to hold. It does seem like they're moving. That's good. So I think we're okay. Let's see if this other one's going to move. Oops, sorry about that. Oh yeah, this one's going to move fairly well. Which is good. I think we're okay with that. It's just a little bit goopy in there. And here's our float. We'll get that all cleaned up. Nice solid float. That means they're plenty reusable. I'm going to get this pin out. Okay. And the pin's just kind of nasty. Okay. And then now what we want to do is we want to get our needle out of here. Now the needles on these have got a rubber tip. See if I can show you. Yeah, there's a little rubber tip right there, and these seem to be in relatively good shape. Actually, this bike doesn't really have that many miles on it, so I'm going to assume that most of it's in pretty good shape. So we'll get this other pin out of here. Again, we have to be very gentle on how we do this. Because if you hit it too hard, you can bend these posts, and you don't want that to happen. I'm just barely tapping on it, and it's coming right out. And the pin is almost out. Let's see if we can get it to push through. And it always helps to have a high quality punch. Again, I'm kind of a snap-on fanatic, and this is a snap-on punch, and I've had it for, you know, what has to be over 30 years, maybe even longer, and it's still, yeah, I use it all the time, and it still is in wonderful shape. It doesn't bend on me. And we got them out. Okay, and we'll grab the needle. And again, this needle's in good shape, and it's really not that rusty in there. So what we need to do now is I'm going to grab a very small either pair of dikes or, and I'm just going to try and loosen these up just a little bit here. And I did, and it flew across the room. So now I got to go find it. I'll be back. And I found it. I'll try not to do that again. This time we'll just take and there it is. It popped right out. The O-rings are a little crusty at the moment. So the next thing I'm going to do is we need to get, there's some pilot jets in here, and I don't know if you can see, and I'll just kind of point in there. But the pilot jets inside of here are all just crusted in. They're stuck inside. So I've got to get the right size screwdriver, and we'll get these jets out and get those pilots out of there. Then we can start cleaning on some of this stuff, and we'll just use some brake cleaner or carb cleaner. Brake cleaner works fine on this stuff. And we'll get all this extra goop that they did around the O-rings off. And later I'm going to try and see if I can't find a carb rebuild kit for it. If nothing else, I haven't been successful finding one. I found one for a 74, 75, and then a 77 and up through 78, but not a 76. And now that I've seen what they look like inside, I should be able to match up something. Okay, so now with a screwdriver that fits well, I'm going to try and loosen this up. Oh yeah, it just loosened right up. So we'll be able to get that cleaned up fairly easily. But, and again, same here. Make sure your screwdriver fits really, really well. Push it in, work it back and forth a little bit before you turn it, and then pop it off. And that way you're not stripping it out, doing bad things to it. A little care makes a bit of difference. Doesn't mean you're going to always be successful at it, but if you have the right tools, it really does help. Now this screwdriver is a good size, but boy, I got a feeling these might be really in there. Nope, it's starting to roll out. I think anyway. I can't really see in there. There it is. So we can get a screwdriver back in it. Looks like it's coming out. If you can feel this, it's just, you can just feel the goop in there. But that jet, hopefully, that jet is coming out. And there it is. Okay, and now let's see if we can get the other one. This other one's really goopy in there. Got to see which way I can't even see the slot here at the moment. See if I can find it. Oh, there it is. Okay, and the slot goes this way. And the screwdriver, I'm gonna work it in back and forth, and then see if I can't get it to come loose. And it seems like I'm successful here. Just there's so much stuff in there, it feels strange, but it's coming. I can feel it. And here comes that jet. And it's out. Completely clogged, but that's okay. All right, there's another jet sitting inside of here, which I didn't see before. Oh, it's on the key and carb. There's two. There's a jet on top, and then there's a smaller jet inside. So we got to get those out. Mikunis don't do that. Mikunis usually just have the one jet. And here we go. And again, with the right size screwdriver to do the job, It comes right out. We don't strip anything. Nobody is getting and here's our pilot jet with the little emulsions on the side, and it is completely blocked. And we'll do the same thing with the other guy. And again, we'll gently get it in there, work our screwdriver back and forth, make sure we're completely seated, and then break it loose. The jet should pop out. And the jet comes out. So it comes out, and I'll check. And again, it is completely blocked. That's okay. So now, what we have here is our carburetors are in a position where we can start cleaning them. We really don't need to take them apart much more. We could. I mean, you know, yes, it probably might be the best thing to do, but we don't really need to. We're clean here. We've got, you know, well, let's pull out a couple more things here. Our air mixture screws, okay? And in this case, these are fuel mixture screws. If the screws are on the, close to the air cleaner, they are air screws. They will allow air to come in. If they are on the other side, of the front side of the bowl, they are fuel screws. So unscrewing them will make it richer. Let's see if I can get that out of there. Where if they're air screws, when you unscrew them, it makes it leaner. So that's the difference between an air screw and a fuel screw. And again, on the front side of the carburetor, closest to the engine, that means they are fuel screws. Now, when you adjust these screws, they're fairly easy. Always start at 1.5 turns. Yes, there are times when, now this one's we've got to make sure that we grab the washer out of the other one. I didn't see a washer come out of it, so we've got to make sure we get that, if there is one. That's not good. We're going to have to, it looks like somebody took this apart before and they didn't put the washer on, or they put it in the wrong spot. Let me take a look. No, I don't see the washer. So we have to come up with one. I'm going to very carefully dig around in there and see if it's just stuck, which it very possibly could be. So again, we'll take care on this to make sure that it is that we come up with that washer. Now the next thing is the choke, and the choke is on these types of carbs. It's not really a choke. They call it a choke, but it's not. It's an enrichener, and what it is, there's a plunger in here. In this case, there's 2 plungers. And those plungers, what they do is they just seal off a passageway in there. And when you open it up, it unseals it and allows fuel to come in, a lot of fuel to come in and enrichen the carbs. That's what a choke does. A choke usually just covers over the back. In the old days, it would just cover over the back, and the vacuum from the engine would pull in extra fuel, and you would get it that way. The enricheners are a little bit more accurate, but they require a little bit different touch when you start. The enricheners don't like any throttle, especially in a 2-stroke. You give the enricheners any throttle, you just completely defeat the purpose. Where in a regular choke, when you give it throttle, it actually allows more fuel to come up. So you got to be real careful of that. But in this case, the enrichers are solid and nice. We can check them, but at the moment we're just going to clean things up. There's another passageway in here we need to make sure is okay, and all these screws are kind of loose. And there's some jets underneath here. And you don't want to mix them up because there's different sizes on each of those. So you have to make sure that you get the right ones back in there. So what we're going to do is we'll pull these covers off, and there's a gasket in here that needs to come out. We'll pull these off. We'll clean this all out. We'll make sure that those are free. But the best thing to do on these is clean them first. We'll clean up everything first. Pull them one at a time. Put them back in. Because if they are different sizes, you don't want to get them wrong. Or you can pull out the two back ones, and then that's probably what we'll do here. We'll just pull out the two back ones and do those first. And then when that's all clean, we'll put them back in and go from there. Just, yeah, you know, you can be careful. You can put them away properly if you want. That's fine. It's just, in this case, we're just going to let them fall out here maybe. There's one. There's two. So here's our two back ones. And we'll put those over here. So now, we're in a good position now to, well let's make sure that there's nothing else that we need to do here. I'm going to check these. I'm going to check these tubes here real quick and see if they'll pop out. Yes, they do. Good. Okay. That's good. And gently, I got to just barely touch them. You see how gentle I am trying to do that, but what's happening here is these tubes, which are really crusty, can now come out. And this one still needs, and again, this is the right size punch to just fit in there, and it just pushes out. And yeah, it's a little green inside, as you can see. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get some sort of little bucket here, and then we're just going to take some brake cleaner, and we're just going to start getting this thing started to get cleaned up. What I might do, no, we'll just go with a little, I'm thinking here that maybe because of the looks of this stuff, it might be better if I use a little super clean in the sink. So what I'll do is I'll clean them up in the sink first real quick and get any excess off of it, and I'll be right back. Okay, after a quick douse of super clean on this, that really helped. That just made life, it got rid of a lot of the crud. A lot of the cleaning that we have to do is just nothing more than spraying it and letting it soak for a minute or two, and it's starting to come out cleaner and cleaner. It's not done yet. We're probably, the best thing to do is put this in the ultrasonic cleaner. That is a real easy thing to do. They're readily available. They're inexpensive now, and that's what everybody can do at home. If you don't have an ultrasonic cleaner, go get one. They really work well. But this is fairly clean. We've gotten rid of most of the crud. There's still a little crud left here and there, which we're dealing with. And I just go through and I just check whatever. And you can see where people have done some repairs on some things. But all in all, these things aren't that bad. So these are going to get put in the ultrasonic. But first, I think what I'll do is we'll get a little tray and we'll just hit this with some carb cleaner and see how good it does. Okay, here's our little tray. And I'm going to hit this, if you can see, I'm going to hit this with a little bit of brake cleaner. This can is almost empty, that's okay. Use up the rest of it, and that'll help get rid of any excess. Well, I think we're just about done here. Oh, let me go get a new can. This brake cleaner over at O'Reilly's is about less than $4, and a lot of times they have it on sale. And this stuff is just great. It works great on carbs. It works really well on pretty much everything. Brakes especially. But if you got some really nasty stuff going on, this stuff really works well. And if you got stuck carburetors, spray it in around all the mechanisms, and it will get all that ugly varnish and stuff out of there. It makes a big difference. Okay, a lot of this, what you see here, this isn't, it's kind of varnish, and it's also kind of a mineral deposit. And brake cleaner and a solvent cleaner are not the best for mineral deposits. They work okay, but they just don't do that good of a job. I think the ultrasonic will probably do a better job of breaking that loose, and then we can make sure all the passageways and everything else in this carb are all cleaned out. But for the most part, it's in pretty good shape. So we'll get this in the ultrasonic, and I'm going to probably use a little bit of simple green and water. That's usually seems to be a pretty good mixture, so I'll go get that prepared and we'll be back. And here's our basket for our ultrasonic cleaner, and I need to get a bigger one, but this does work. It does make it. So I'm going to go put these in the ultrasonic for a little while, and when we come back, maybe we'll be able to start getting all the rest of these parts in. We'll get these guys done first. Well, I'm not going to leave that. I'm only going to leave the carbs in there for about 5 minutes. Even with a little bit of simple green in there, it does have a tendency to darken all of the aluminum, and I really don't want that to happen. So I'm going to spend just a small amount of time in there, and I'll spend a little more time just making sure all the passageways are clear using a variety of methods. And we'll try and get this thing out of here. I'm going to try a little bit of brake cleaner, see if I can't get this to come loose. This thing is just full of some sort of glue. I don't know what it is, and we don't really care. We're just going to get it out of there. Let that soak a little bit. And here we're just going to fast forward through some cleaning, look at stuff, do a little brushing, do a little checking, making sure that everything is the way we want it. I'm looking at the cap and see what it looks like when we get ready to clean it up. We're just cleaning up all the bowls. I'm using a soft wire brush to do that, a soft brass bristle brush to do that, and just getting things clean, scraping off all the crud. And an inspection of the jets. So what we need to do now is go on ahead and make a way for us to clean out the jets. So what we're going to do is take some stranded wire, just basic wire that you have in your shop around, and it's got strands. Strip it back, and I'd already stripped this a little bit. And now you can go on ahead and pull a strand. And now this is what we are going to be poking through the jets. The reason that we're doing this is because many people say, oh yes, go on ahead and use the welding tip files to do that or something else, and doing that ruins the jet. What we're doing here by poking it through and see me twisting away at it is I am cleaning up the jet without any harm to it whatsoever. If we feel that it's a little too loose, you can put a few strands through it, but for the most part, just take a strand of wire, stuff it through, check it, as we're doing here, checking and make sure that there's some sort of light coming through it, and when you're done, put it away, grab the next jet, and you can do this to all the jets. You should do it to all the jets. And regular stranded wire, if you look at like this pilot jet, it is just super, super tiny. So the best thing you can do is go on ahead, get a strand, start poking it in there, and you'll feel it, and just start twisting until the wire comes through. It is not a... Sometimes it's a little tough. It depends on how much junk is in there. So you'll be working at it a little bit harder. So you just go through and do this with all the jets and poke it through, twist the jet a little bit, and once it finally comes through, as it did right there, you can twist it, and now you have a way to clean that jet. And it's not really abrasive. It doesn't hurt the jet. People who try to drill them completely ruin them. These are precision cut pieces. This is not some huge engine that can take a lot of extra fuel or whatever. It's designed to have a X amount of fuel and be very, very well metered. Again, one cylinder is only 200 cc's. So just carefully just go through each and every one of those jets, clean out any gunk in there, make sure it's smooth and you don't feel any junk coming out, and then clean them out with carb cleaner or whatever you're going to clean them with, and you will save the jets and not have to worry about it. And just continue on pushing those through. We're pushing some of the junk in these needle jets, and there's little holes in the side. Just try to get those all cleaned out. This one's pretty crappy. It's got a lot of stuff on it, and it just built up. So I think what we'll do is we'll go on ahead and take a Dremel with a little wire brush on it and clean some of it up a little bit. It's just plain too full, and we don't want to put dirty parts back in, so we'll just clean up a little bit right here. It's got a little stainless steel wire brush, get some of the stuff off of it, and we'll clear out the holes, and once those holes are cleared, we'll be able to move on to the next piece of things that we need to clean. There are little tiny holes in the sides of these needle jets. They're kind of emulsion tubes, and you need to clean out all of those with your little strand of wire and make sure they're all cleaned out, every single one of them. The pilot jets also have these, and those little holes are extremely important. If they're plugged up, things just don't work right. So make sure that all the holes going sideways and every single thing you see in every jet is cleaned out, and that little strand of wire will not harm one little piece. And we'll continue on using the little wire to clean out all those little holes, make sure that they're all clean, and we're just going to make sure everything works fine. So now that we have all the jets clean, now we can turn our attention towards these slides. So what we want to do is make sure the slides will go up and down inside the boards very easily, and we drop them in. Just make sure that they're easy, that they go in and out easy. There's no binding, because these slides are vacuum controlled. There's nothing mechanical dealing with them. And we'll just make sure that everything works. Now, looking at these caps, you can see that they're heavily pitted. It's a little hard to see on camera, but they're heavily pitted and they need to be dealt with, and we want to make them look real nice. So what we're going to do is we're going to get some sandpaper, and we're going to start with some 400, see how that does. We may have to go to a heavier sandpaper, but we'll just kind of work these back and forth, and we'll get them all cleaned up, and we'll do a little bit of polishing on them, and we'll get something that looks real good. And it just takes a little bit of elbow grease, so we'll just continue on. As you can see, it kind of smooths it out. A little hard to see on camera because of the lighting, but it's getting smoother, and we'll just work them. So now that we've got them pretty well sanded, we can go on ahead and we'll give them a good buff. Just get more of the stuff off of it. And once we buff them, I'll come back and we'll take a look at. We'll do a side-by-side comparison of what they look like now, what one looks like after being buffed and sanded, and the old one. So now we're back after a little bit of buffing. We'll wipe these guys off just using a paper towel. No polishes or anything like that. Just a bit of buffing on the buffer wheel, and we'll get all the extra stuff off of it. And let's do a side-by-side. There's the old one, and here it is after just about 10 minutes work, 5 minutes work, and you can see the difference. It's the pitting is basically all gone, and it just looks great. It's perfect for what we want to do. This isn't a show bike, but it will look nice. Now, as I said before, I was going to show you how to restore these screws. If you look, you'll see this screw, and it's a little hard to see on camera, but the end of the screw is mangled from being slipped, and it looks terrible. And what happens here, it's not a matter of metal missing, it's metal being displaced. So what you do is you take a little hammer with a smooth head on it. So if you see how smooth that head is, and put it in the vise, and just don't clamp down too hard on the vise to ruin the threads, but then go on ahead and gently tap it back. And what you're doing is you're pushing the metal back down into its regular shape. Now, it's not going to be perfect, but what's going to happen is we're going to go on ahead and we'll take a number 2 bit or JIS bit, whichever one you have, and we're going to take that and we're going to reform the Phillips part of the head. And it's relatively simple. Just go on ahead, we'll put it in, tap it down, get it out of there, and our screw is now flattened back out, and it looks pretty darn good. If you go on ahead, we'll do a little, maybe a bit of brushing on it. You can see that that it's back to normal looking. We'll take a brush and brush it off a little bit, make it shine up. There's a bunch of, we could do a much better job, but this is just, these carbs are not that great. And again, we have a screw that it looks fairly normal. I wish the camera picked that up a little bit better, but it is what it is. Okay, so now one of the next things we have to do is get the caps ready. And if you look here, is we have our plunger, and in this particular type, there's no diaphragm, which is really good. That makes life a lot easier because the diaphragms want to rot out. But when we put this in, we're going to find that it floats right down. No problem at all. So you can see it, and it just drops in. And we're going to go to the other cap, and it feels like it's stuck. It moves, but barely. And when you go to drop it, you have to push it. And what that is there's a little tiny vent hole inside here. I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but basically there's a little tiny vent hole right here, and that's how this shaft vents. So that needs to be cleaned out. So I've got a little tiny drill here with it's small. It's in something called a pin vise, and it's smaller than the actual hole. It's just used to clean it out. And we'll try it again. Let's see if that cleaned it, which it didn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little air and blow it through here. Let's see if we can't blow out the clog. I'll get that cleaned out and we'll go from there. Okay, so with both of them cleaned out now, we are all set to start assembling this guy. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go in and put in our needle jets. Now, put them in, and we will then find the other one, put it in, and there's a little bit of a taper, goes in. Okay, now we will, now these guys have a little O-rings on there. I put new O-rings on it. It's about the only real new parts we've got going here. We will go on ahead and push those in. I may have to use a little lubricant on those to help push them in. So let's get a little WD-40. And just a little drip of WD-40 to help get those things started and going in. Maybe. Get the other one. I got enough on my finger to deal with those. Takes a little effort to get them in there, but they'll go in. This one, twist them a little bit, and they go in. Okay, so now those are in. Okay, now we got to get in all the other little jets that go into this. So we have these guys. Let me get the can out of the way. You can see. Get the other one in. These are all these jets have been cleaned out now. Remember, we've gotten all the crud out of them. We've we've taken our little wire and run them through all the jets. They're all clean. And now we'll put the pilot jets in. And again, we clean those out. Get the right size screwdriver for it. Okay. And the other pilot jet. Find it. Here somewhere. There we are. In. Then on top of those is another jet. And again, those have all been cleaned out. Get the other one in. Make sure they're all nice and snug. We don't want them rattling out. Okay, the next thing we want to do, we'll put in our float needles. And we'll put in the floats. Now, when you put in the floats, there's a little tab in here, and that tab needs, the downside of the tab needs to go against the needle. And you take your pin, and we'll slide it in. Now, these could be a little tight. And we may have to, we don't need any persuasion on them. Just take it, push them in. Do the same thing with the other one. Already got our needle in. We'll go to the downside. We'll push our pin in. Pushed into place so they're firm. And now what we're going to have to do is I'm going to show you how to properly set the float levels. I'm going to go get the number that we need, and I'll be right back after I find that out, and then I'll show you how to set the floats properly. There is an improper way to do it, and there is a proper way to do it. So we'll go through that. Okay, so the flow levels on these need to be set to about 24 millimeters. That gives you about 23 millimeters of fuel level, but people have empirically found that 24 millimeters is about the right setting. So that's what we're going to use. So to set your float levels, some people just take the floats and they lay them flat and they measure them. And if you look, when we do that, if you just lay them flat and measure them, there's a lot of space in there. But the way you actually do that is, if the springs are heavy, that's fine, it works. But usually the springs are not that heavy. And the idea here is all that we want to do is we want to hold them at 90 degrees and just roll them back until they touch the springs. And that's where you check your float level. And when I do that, I'm exactly at 24 millimeters. Before it was about 22. So this is where they actually have to be set. Now this one is a little too high. It's just now touching the float, the spring. All right, it's actually about right. Excuse me. Okay, and same with this one. You just take it, you let it relax, let it just touch the needle, because that needle is not heavy at all. And this one's a little bit off. That's much better. Okay, so now we just take it and our floats are a little bit off. Okay, and now our floats are absolutely perfect. So our float levels are set the proper way. We've put in all our jets. Now there's a couple little caps that go on here, and they just cover up these holes. Okay. And then we have these spring things that go here, and then they go over the caps, and then we'll be pushing on these, holds in everything. Same here, just part of the assembly. Then we'll be putting our bowls. Now I've gone through and got the O-rings all set in there the way they should be. And they have a tendency to push out, but that's okay. We'll, once we get them lined up on there, they'll be okay. I'm just going to take this one, our O-ring set in place. We'll put it on this way so we don't displace the O-ring at all. And now I can go on ahead and we'll take a screw or two. Now remember, we had screws with, some of them had washers on them with the other bracket, but I'm just going to put these in temporarily just to hold everything in place. And we'll do the same thing with this other guy. We're all cleaned up and nice. Oops, get this guy turned into its right position. And we do the same thing here. We just take it and we push these on. Everything's lined up nice. Put a screw in there just to hold everything in place. Those springs have got the springs have a bit of tension on them. Those little, and I have gone through all the screws and pounded them all back into submission. Okay. So now what we have is this bracket, and this bracket is the holds on the idle control. So what we're going to do right now is we will take some of this, a screw, get it into our bracket here. Matter of fact, we're going to take another screw and also get it into our bracket so that we have diagonal screws going into the float bowls. Okay, the float bowls are on. Let's get the idle adjust in there. There's a spring that goes on here. And we'll put the spring in. Then you've got to kind of roll this around and then just let it start. And it will go in until it starts pushing on the butterflies. Let's see it come through here. right here. And now, just now starting to push on the butterflies. It moved them ever so slightly, and that's good. That's where we need to be. So now, there's a couple little cover plates that go on, that go over these air jets. And there's one screw. We'll put that guy in. Okay. Now, next thing is we've cleared all the passageways in our cap. So now it slides down nicely on both of them. Okay. So now what we need to do is you can remove the slide, and when you look inside here, there's a little pin, and that pin needs to line up with this slot. So you just take this and you line it up and make sure that it slides up and down really nicely like that. We'll do the same thing for the other one. Again, another little pin slot. Gently put it in. The slides move beautifully. Then you take the caps, which have got 2 gaskets on it, and or a gasket on each side. Oops, got the wrong. Got to put the gaskets in first. Sorry. Put that back in. Gasket. Then the slide. Then your cap. And I guess we want the key in to face forward. Yes. And the same thing on the other side. The key in facing forward. That really doesn't matter all that much, but it's coming back down fine. Good. So now we have our slides in, our caps look nice. The only thing left here is to put in our fuel screws. So, gloves are making it a little tough. So we take our fuel screw, I'm going to put it in. And like I said before, you start out with these at 1.5 turns in. So you gently roll them in till it bottoms out. And you can feel it bottom out. Then we turn it 1/2, 1 whole, 1.5 turn. Now that's in a good position to, once you put it back on the bike and you get started, it's going to be pretty close. You may have to go a 1/4 turn either way, but that's fine. And let it do it. Okay, put our other one in. Turn that in till it bottoms out. And it bottomed out. 1/2, 1 whole, 1.5. Okay, so now what we have is a set of are they rebuilt? No, but they are reclaimed. They've been cleaned up. They're ready to go. We've fixed we've gotten all the gook out of them. We've got all the guck out of the O-ring chamber in there. That's all cleaned out. Everything works fine. It's nice and free. The only thing that you may want to do is take a little bit of WD-40 or something of that nature and just kind of spray around all the little moving parts, because what we've done is we've dried up any kind of lubricant on there. And WD-40 is got a very powerful solvent in it, but it also has a very, very um, light oil, which is nice. Not crazy. It's it's it allows things to move nicely without any real damage there. Our choke mechanism is moving nicely. They click into place. This has got two snaps on it. So the first one is when you go to start it fresh, you hit them both, and then once it warms up a little bit, you can snap it off one and then the other. Our throttles move freely, and I'm going to just throw a little WD-40 in our slides over here, just make sure that everybody moves nicely. Let them come back down. They go down and up with gravity. Which means they are in perfect shape. And so now we are basically done with getting these guys cleaned up and ready for installation. Well, we still have to work on our engine, but we are in good shape. The carbs are in good shape. Everything is working. Lube on the mechanisms. Everything is clean. And they look pretty good. They're not all dark and nasty anymore. And we have got a complete set of carbs. Nice and shiny, and they'll look good going on. They are ready to go. And thanks for watching the video. We got our carburetors all done. They're all clean and nice. And so thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and we'll see you next time.